Away From The Citadel podcast, hosted by Charlie Fawcett and Luke Helliwell.
Hello and welcome to Away From The Citadel, episode 7. Once again, to my right, I'm joined by Charlie. How are we doing, Charlie?
I'm alright, mate. Are you?
I'm good, thank you. And to my left, special guest today, Farsley Celtic fan and sports journalist John Barron. How are you doing today, John?
I'm fine. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for coming on. A few questions about Farsley Celtic and the football club in your perspective as a fan. So we'll just get cracking straight away.
Cool.
So when did it start becoming a Farsley Celtic fan? When did you start supporting the football club?
About 7 years ago now. I needed somewhere to kind of bring my son. I'm a Manchester United fan and he's a Leeds fan, so we needed somewhere to meet, the kind of halfway between. And so we decided to go to watch Farsley Celtic, and we've been going ever since.
So in the time supporting Farsley Celtic, obviously highs and lows. What if you pinpoint one moment supporting the football club? What is the highlight?
So the highlight of watching Farsley Celtic has been when we were promoted up to National League North from the division below. Was there when we went up, and that was a real highlight, I think. And I think the last 3 seasons have all been last day dramas. We've survived relegation on each of the last 3 seasons. On the last day, and I think staying up last season was a fantastic achievement. People were on the pitch, and it was just really dramatic, and it was a great day for everyone.
Yes, obviously talk about those 3 seasons where Farsley managed to survive. Unfortunately, this year Farsley haven't quite been able to do that. Relegation was confirmed last week. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's been inevitable for most match-going fans since about November time, December time. Everybody felt that the way that the club was going, players were leaving, players had struggled in terms of inconsistent payments, and maybe weren't playing to their full ability on the pitch. There was obviously a lot of turmoil off it. And I think most match-going fans would say kind of probably early December was the time when we kind of felt that relegation could well be, and you know, we've gone through, I think it's 4 managers this season. I think we've had 7 goalkeepers. We've had a turnover of players you wouldn't believe. I think we've used, including the ETS lads, probably more than 40 players this season. We've just completely lacked stability, both on and off the pitch. So I think it's no surprise to anybody.
No, and obviously you mentioned there the turnover in managers. The job now lies in the hands of David Stockdale.
Yeah.
What do you make of David Stockdale? Do you think he's the right man for the job?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to David on a few occasions as editor of West Leeds Dispatch, but also as a volunteer at the club. He's a really nice guy. He is facing an almost impossible task at the moment in terms of, he's got such a young and small pool of players to play with. He's got them well organised. The results haven't been great, but at this level, it's unforgiving. And I think, he's obviously got plans for the future. He's obviously here for the long term. He's come in and stepped in at a very, very difficult time for the club. He's brought some stability on the playing side, and I think he's absolutely the right person to take us forward.
Yeah, I agree. Final question for me before I pass over to Charlie. Obviously, you mentioned the squad of players that Davies had to use. It's not been easy. A lot of young players. Has there been any young players that have particularly stood out individually?
I think collectively that they've all been brilliant. But I think there are some of the players like João Silva has been particularly impressive. I think in the last couple of months, Manny Mampala's kind of come into his own. I think we've had a succession of goalkeepers, but the last couple of goalkeepers that we've had have impressed quite well as well. But I think João's the standout talent. I think at Farsley Celtic at the moment is a full international, and he's undoubtedly got a really good future ahead of him.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I'm going to pass over to Charlie for a few more questions.
Yeah, so this is more about the club as a whole. Obviously, there's been a bit of a change in the ownership recently. Well, not necessarily ownership, but the leadership of the club. Do you have faith that the current model will be able to get Farsley out of this trouble?
That's a good question, and it's a difficult question to answer. I hope so. There are. I think it's going to be, speaking as editor of West Leeds Dispatch and looking at it from a journalistic point of view, I think this summer's going to be a really interesting one for Farsley Celtic Football Club. Obviously, the board are currently there at the moment. There's 4 of them on the board. They're looking to kind of take the club forward. They've run a crowdfunder. They've announced plans for laying a new pitch, which they've put an application in for funding for. They've obviously got kind of their own kind of plans for the club moving forward, and I think they intend to take the club forward next season. I think there are other interested parties. I hear a lot of whispers. There's a community trust that was formed a while ago. They've obviously got their eyes on the club, and I think they've got some quite big money backers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I'm sure there will be other interested parties interested in coming in and maybe putting in a bid to kind of run the club. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens this summer. And I wouldn't like to predict what's going to happen.
Well, have you been to any of the supporter meetings with the board so far?
I have indeed, yes.
Have you been impressed with how they've sort of outlined the next steps? Do you think it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously got a clear vision in terms of where they want to kind of take the club. You know, the first thing they've got to sort out is the pitch. Obviously, you know, that's been a massive issue for the whole season, at the heart of the club's troubles. At the end of the day, obviously the pitch was taken up in September, and it's still not there now. You know, we don't have a pitch to play on, which is a massive issue. They've outlined the way that they're going to get the pitch back down. They've outlined their vision for kind of taking the club forward. So hopefully they'll be able to do that. But like I say, there could be other interested parties kind of coming in and looking to take over. It's all up in the air at the moment. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, so do you think it's possible that maybe Farsley Celtic could have a pitch to play on by the time next season comes around, or do you think that's too early? I
think that'd be too early. I think the plans are to seed the pitch. Right. Therefore, you know, you're going to need to have time to get the money in, actually, you know, seed the pitch. You have to put topsoil down, and that all takes time. So I can't imagine, you know, before the autumn that the pitch will be ready, but fingers crossed. You know, we're desperately in need of it. You know, I think the last game that we played at Farsley was end of April last year, last game of the season. It's been a long time, and it's really affected the fan base. Obviously, you know, having to go down to Buxton. There aren't many of us still going down to our home games or away games. You know, it's affected the community, it's affected the fans, and we need to get something down as quickly as possible from a fan's perspective.
Absolutely. So finally, I'm just wondering if you got any early predictions for the footballing side next season. Do you think Farsley will be able to bounce back into the National League North?
From my own personal point of view, I think that would be extremely unlikely. Given, you know, we won't have had essentially any income for over a year. I'd be very surprised if we were pushing for promotion next season. I mean, I would very much like it to be so, but I think for me, a season of stability and consolidation. Avoiding a relegation battle. We don't want to kind of do what Blythe and Bradford Park Avenue have done and start to drop down the leagues. I think we need to get our finances sorted, and you know, a year of drama is not needed next season.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us, John. It's been a really interesting interview, and thanks to Luke as always. But that's all we've got time for, so we'll see you next time.
Away from the Citadel podcast, hosted by Charlie Fawcett and Luke Helliwell.